Hey, what's going on, everyone? We are going to go over the top 10 most expensive and most profitable items that sold in my eBay store for the month of January 2020. It's hard to believe it, but the first month of a new decade is already over. You know, January traditionally is a month where people have slower sales because while there are some people who are spending money on gift cards that they received over the holidays, there are also a lot of people who are tighter on the purse strings because they just spent a bunch of money during Q4 on gifts and presents. But there is a way that you could increase the chance that you can make those sales not only in January but throughout the year when there are traditional slow spots, and that is by making sure that you have some type of vintage and collectible items available, or vintage and or collectible items. Now, you don't have to specialize in those items, but as long as you know what to look for when you're outsourcing, that's going to increase the chance that you're going to see those things, snatch up those treasures, and be able to at least put some of them up available for buyers. So you're going to see a wide array of items here. We're going to start off at number 10 in just a moment. We're going to work our way back up to number 1. You're going to see some $100 plus items along the way. All these are items that I sourced very low, including the last item, which is going to be a $500 item that I sourced for free. So hang on for that. Don't skip ahead. If it's cold out by you right now, because I'm filming this during the winter time, it's February 1st, you know, grab a blanket, snuggle up, get your toasty warm socks on by a fireplace, get some popcorn, you know, get a soda, get some coffee if it's early in the morning, and kick back and relax, because we are going to start off at number 10 with Captain Midnite. I kind of sound like Howard Finkel announcing a wrestler from the old WWF, but the reason why I said it that way is that Captain Midnite actually originated as a radio serial from 1938 to 1949. Captain Midnite was this aerial aviator character, and they called him Captain Midnite because he was sent off to do these secret missions, and he would return at midnight, at the stroke of 12, and so that's how he got that name. And I used to hear that Captain Midnite intro because I used to listen to Steve Summers, the schmoozer from WFAN. He was a sports radio host, and he used to come on at midnight. So I used to listen to him under my covers with my headphones on, and he used to play off of that, that old intro spot of Captain Midnite coming in. So I always remember hearing that. And then I asked my dad about it, and he told me about listening to Captain Midnite and getting the Captain Midnite comic books. Now, the Captain Midnite comic books, these Golden Age books, they ran mostly concurrently with the radio serial. So the comic book version ran from 1942 to 1948. So these being from 1947 or towards the end of that run. So these both sold for $55. They were two of the comic books that I've talked about in many other shows that I pulled out of that barn at the estate sale. It was a big long box of comic books, and there are a lot of Golden Age books in there. So these two I just combined and sold them together. They do show up once in a while. They're not easy to come by, which is why they both sold for $55. And that gets to a point that I want to address with comic books. Well, one is obviously it gives you an idea of a character to look for, because people always ask me about that. But a question I actually just answered last night to a member of my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, is how much does condition matter with comic books? Now, condition is huge with comic books. However, thing to keep in mind with this is when the comic books get older, or when the comic books are not only older, but usually what goes along with that, with them being older, is that they are less available. So when you have less availability and you also have high demand, so there are a lot of people still want to get these old Captain Midnite comics, since there's not as many of them around anymore, then people will take them in worse condition than they would traditionally prefer to have the comic books, and they'll still pay decent money for it. So if there were a lot of these books around around, for example, there's no way someone would pay $55 for 2 of them. But because it's desirable and because there's not many of them around, people will still pay for it, even though you can see we've got a bunch of damage, we've got creases, we've got gouges in the book, we've got some loosening of the spine there. So, you know, there's all sorts of unsightly defects with the book. You can see right there at the top corner, there's a little piece that's removed. Yet, importantly for collectors, even though there are those problems there on the edges, and on the corners, importantly, you do still see that the main part of the cover displays, and that's really helpful. The colors are still nice and bright, so those are things that will help overcome some cosmetic defects in older desirable books like this. So if you ever come across Captain Midnite comic books when you're going through an old box, make sure you definitely pull those out and let me know that you found them and sold them, because I love to hear those kind of stories. I'm hearing a lot more of those things, of people finding things based on things from these videos, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of hearing that type of stuff. So the next one here, something to look for, and this is what I mean about something completely different. I mean, we are just jumping from comic books from 1947 to an old Minolta Instant Pro camera. So this is kind of like a Polaroid type camera here. Basically, Polaroid is kind of synonymous with the types of cameras in which it says instant. For those of you who are not familiar with this, who are pretty young, basically what allows you to do, you have film in there already, you just press a button and the picture actually slides right out of the slot here, right out of that mouth right there. And so you basically just wait a few moments and the picture develops instantly. And this one actually sold for $50. I actually got this for free because my mom, Mama Primetime, who's probably watching this, so big shout out to Mama Primetime. Give her a shout out down below in the comment section. She'll probably get a kick out of seeing that. But she actually brought these over to me. I say these because there are a bunch of other cameras in this big box as well. She had a friend who was downsizing. Her husband had passed away and had all these cameras. And so I let them all know what I was doing with eBay. And I told them all once at a family function, I said, hey, if you're ever, downsizing or anything like that, and you have stuff that you're going to throw out, let me know first before you throw it out. And if you're going to donate it, just let me know. I offered to buy some of the stuff, but next thing I know, this just got donated over to Mama Primetime. And then the next thing I know, it's showing up at my house during a family visit. And so, she said, here, I don't know if this is worth anything, but if so, it's yours to list. And so that's another tip, by the way, a way that you could get some items to source is make sure you let family members, friends know what it is that you do, because they may just be willing to just toss something out that may have some value, and you could look through it. And don't get me wrong, there were some cameras in there that were worthless that I couldn't sell, but then there are also ones like this that that sold well. This one is in, like I said, in nice condition. So we've got that one right there. That's another $50 item right there. So, and actually, I guess I should have started this one out at number 10, because this one sold for 50 and these sold for 55. So, but they're pretty close. So another $50 item here. This one is a Funko Pop, and I've said this many times, but for those who are new, I continue to laugh at people who tell me that Funko Pops don't sell. They do sell. You just have to make sure that you have the right ones. And this is a perfect example. Resident Evil, it's from a video game, and this is a popular character, Nemesis, from the game. This one is vaulted. Vaulted is a Funko Pop term, which means that the Funko is retired. They don't make it anymore. And a lot of people ask me, well, how do I know that the Funko is vaulted? There used to be a list, but I haven't seen that list in a long time. So essentially what you have to do is you just have to do a search on the item, and you are going to be able to tell from other collectors who have similar listings that this item is now vaulted. And so you want to put that term in there because people will look for that. So other ways to get clues in terms of that a Funko Pop may be valuable is it sometimes will have a sticker on the front of it, which will indicate that it's exclusive to a certain store, a certain company that made it, like Toys R Us, even Walmart, Target. There's lots of places that put out exclusive. Certain comic book conventions, they release them, like San Diego Comic-Con. It might say SDCC on them. So look for that. New York Comic-Con is another one. Sometimes they'll literally say that they are one of a certain number that were made, like 500 were made, or 1,000 were made, or something like that. So the sticker is not a guarantee. It's just something to make sure you look for in terms of increased value, because again, if they made too many of an item, even if it has the sticker on it and it's not a character that people want, then it's not going to be worth a lot, even if it has a sticker. So you have to be careful. There are a lot of Funko Pops that aren't worth anything, but then again, there are ones like this that I sourced for like $2. I actually showed this in a video once when I brought it back with a bunch of other Funkos, and this was from a Craigslist ad that I had posted that someone responded to me. So I bought these in a big lot with a bunch of other items. It's the one where I got the Legos and the Funko cereal. There are a bunch of other things in there you may remember. So that is number 3. This one here is, again, speaking of what you're seeing here, diverse items. This is a Porter cable motor router. This is a really cool item. I absolutely love this. I found it at the end of an estate sale, and I'm focusing on this too because it even has damage on it. You can see here that the sheath is split, and that I'm going to actually make that point about the Funko Pop too, because if I zoom into this one, you can see we have damage on the Funko. There's bends in the cardboard, there's creases and stuff. You just have to make sure that you mention these types of things and disclose it, and that will help protect you. But even though this one has all sorts of scuffs on it, it has a split in the sheath. This one sold for $55. These are great types of items, even though they are heavy, but they are nice and small and compact, and so they're perfect candidates for cubic rate shipping. So a place like Pirate Ship is a perfect place to ship something like this for cheap. You could ship items like this for under $10 by doing that. So don't pay tons of money spending lots of cash trying to ship it out to regular USPS priority. And this here shows you, if you've been watching my haul videos for a while, this shows me sourcing this, and I'm going to give you a sense of just how powerful these things are. And this is why people will still pay $55 for one. They used one like this and maybe it broke, and they don't want to upgrade to something newer. They want to get the original thing that's nice and strong and powerful. So I'm going to just play this and be quiet because you're going to hear some noise here. So let me just play this. Once again, people leaving stuff like this behind. This Porter cable model 100M. Now, it does have some wear, but not worried about it. Someone's still going to pick that up, especially if I have it at the best price. So you could see here, I've plugged it in, and you'll see it still works really well. These things always held up pretty good, so you can listen right here. I mean, that thing is super hardcore. So I love that. So, and remember, that's sitting there at the end. Like pretty much everyone had left the estate sale. There were a couple stragglers here and there, but people just leave these things out there. And this isn't the first time that I have shown or sold items like this. It really doesn't matter the company. It could be Craftsman, it could be Porter Cable. It doesn't matter as long as it's vintage. And this isn't really something collectible. That's why I said collectible / vintage or vintage. Some of the things I'm showing you are collectibles, like this Funko Pop, but other things are more, just vintage types of pieces that people want because it's old school, it's well constructed, it's well made, and people will pay money for these things because they're discontinued and you can't find these things anymore. So that's that one. Now this one here, you may remember me, this is actually a combo because I sold both of these together, these two Collegeville costumes. Now Collegeville is an old costume making company. Now, many people are more familiar with the Ben Cooper line of costumes, which if you ever see those intact, make sure you pick them up as well. But the thing with the costumes is that it's really hard to find these old vintage costumes from the 80s and the 70s intact. So what I mean by that, it's very hard to find them, first of all, in the box or with the complete box. And even if you find the box, most of the time when you find them, this cellophane that goes over this right here, the face, the cellophane window, is almost always busted, almost always ripped. So to find it like this was just amazing. You could see on the side, it has the different, it has the names of the character and the size and stuff like that. And I did a lot of things to display this. I wanted to not only show the box, but I also did a nice flat lay like this to give someone a sense of what the costume would look like, you know, when it's all together on somebody without actually putting it on someone. Not only showing the front, but also making sure that I show the side. This is going to be something that's going to go to a collector who's into this Photon game, which was basically an old laser tag game. If you played Photon, let me know if you remember any of these characters. Probably will crack some of you up seeing this. The mask is obviously very important, so I like to do a little close-up on the mask as well. Not only the front of the mask, but also the rubber band. The rubber bands are usually snapped off. I mean, look at these rubber bands. I mean, this one here and on the other one is the same thing. I mean, these things are in amazing condition. This thing was never used. Basically is new old stock. Anytime you could zoom up on dates like here where it says 1986, please make sure that you do that as well. I didn't put these up one at a time. I made sure I put both of them up together. I had two of this one here. So let me go back to this character. I had two of this one of Mandar. I had two of the Photon Warrior, and let me show you the layout on him too, just in case you're curious what he looked like with his costume right there. So I did the layout on that one. I put both of them together. So somebody bought both of these together, so that's $42.50 plus $42.50, so almost a $90 sale there, pretty close. So very, very happy with that one. And that's the advantage of putting things that are similar up, have a similar theme. I've talked about that before, because that not only gives me a bigger sale, but it also increases my profit because I save on shipping by combining both of them together into one box. So that helped as well. Now, I had previously sold the other two of these for around $45 each to different people. So then I had these two remaining to put up. And then there was a GoBots one, if you remember, that I also sourced. I sourced them when I went to the comic book convention. And you could see that here. I'll just enlarge it a bit so you could see it. So there he is. There's the character. This was the video called Father Son. So I'll try to get this playing here. So there you go. There you could see it there. So these were just laying out there. Let me make the video the window shorter just in case my face is cutting it off there. I didn't think about that. But yeah, so they were just sitting out there. I wound up getting a great deal. I can't remember exactly how much I paid for it, but it wasn't that much. I think I paid like $20 for the 5 boxes. So this is just another place to think of in terms of sourcing, which would be comic book conventions. And even though it's a comic book convention, notice when you watch that video, the father-son one, there's a lot of things there that are not comic books, but are comic book related. So you'll find things like this there. You'll find things like costumes and, and toys and action figures. You can see there's some down below in bags. I picked up one for my son. There's VHS tapes below there. There's music tapes. There's records. You'll find all sorts of stuff at comic conventions. So just make sure that if you have some in your area, sometimes if it doesn't cost too much to get in, check it out and take a look, and you'll probably find some treasures in there. So that's a good example right there. So that's the Photon laser tag items. Let's move on to the next one here. This is an old Star Wars item. So when Star Wars first came out and they were starting to try to market their products, one of the things that they came out with the original 12 Star Wars figures is they had a mail-away display stand. And this is the actual stand that you would receive right there. And you can see there's a sticker on there, and it has all the different, and I'll zoom up a little bit better so you can see. It has the different characters on there: Stormtrooper, Jawa, Death Star Commander, C-3PO, Darth Vader, Obi-Wan Kenobi, all that sort of stuff. So these are tricky to find. They're out there, but you know, they're pretty desirable because collectors want this type of stuff to you know, to have in their collection. Since they were mail-aways, they weren't things that you could just get in the store. They want to display their figures on them. It's a great thing to have in a collection. Now, I wound up getting this again through one of my Craigslist ads that I set up. A woman had contacted me and asked me to come over to the house. There was a bunch of items they were just trying to get rid of and downsize the house. And these Star Wars toys, and there's others that I wound up getting as well. You know, they just wound up being a great score. I can't tell you exactly how much I paid for this. I would tell you it came out to, like, seriously, almost like $1. I wound up selling it for $100. And I say around $1 because I just walked out with boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff over the course of days. I mean, this woman, she was calling me back to come back and just get more stuff. And I wound up paying about $300 for everything. But again, that's loading my vehicle up over and over and over again. This is just one of those items. I actually made all my money back by selling an L.L. Rickers ceramic wall hanging piece for $300 over $300 within about an hour of posting it. Made everything back. So this is just profit at this point. The person offered me $100. I just took it again because I'm well into profit in the collection. And not only that, but this item does have, it may be hard to see there for you, but it does have discoloration on it. There's some yellowing to it and some browning on it. And so I took that into consideration when the offer came in, and I said, you know what, $100 is fine. And you know, that's what I took and sold it for. But if you ever see these can sell up to $150 and sometimes a little bit more depending on the condition. If it didn't have that yellowing and browning on it, I probably would have held out for a little bit more on it. But again, $100, nice overall sale, nice profit there. So now I told you I found some other things. I sold some action figure. I found some action figures there. In fact, one of the things that I did find there is this Darth Vader toy holder, action figure holder, and inside there's a bunch of figures in here. So you could see some of them here, I think. And I found something like this before. You may remember from another haul video that I went to where I did the Star Wars haul. I found one just like that. So I come across these sometimes, and you will too if you keep hunting enough. But this is something else that I found there. So in addition to the figures, in addition to the figure holder, yesterday actually, and I just put this up as a be on the lookout item of the day in my Facebook group, this is just the cardboard backing board for the 1977 Luke Skywalker figure. That's all it is. It's just the cardboard. Now, one of the things that makes it more valuable is that it is unpunched. So you could see there right up top, right above the letters ST, there's a little area that would be perforated, and that would be something that could hang up on a peg in a toy store. Well, it wasn't hung up. And when something is unpunched, that really increases the value of the piece, even if it's an intact piece. If it's not intact, whatever, just being unpunched is something that will increase that value, and you want to emphasize that in your listing. You want to make sure you put that in your title, as you can see right there that I have that emphasized right there, that it's unpunched. So people will buy these because they are basically trying to make reconstructions of the figure. So they will get blister packs for the plastic part that will go over here, and they will try to get figures to put in there and try to make something that looks like the original piece. So obviously the less damage that you have around the cardboard helps. So you could see there's some cardboard loss that someone would need to touch up, or either just leave intact. Now, yes, someone did mention in my Facebook group yesterday that there are some people who will buy backing boards like this, and they will fraudulently put in basically a used character, a used figure that has been touched up with paint, and then try to sell it off as new. But if somebody's going to do that, that's on them. I mean, that's not on me. I'm selling this as an honest, legitimate product that hopefully someone is going to take and, you know, use for good and honest purposes. But you should be aware that there are people that will do things like that with these cards. But then again, there's also people who are going to take these and make honest, basically restored versions of original mint figures that they could find, and then match them up with the backing boards and the blister pack. So there again, just the cardboard. That one sold for, I took a best offer, that one sold for $107.50. And by the way, at this house, I found all 12 backing cards. So I just put them up last weekend. I have the 11 other cards are available in my eBay store if you want to check it out. They're all at different price ranges. There's one, I think the Darth Vader one might be up to like $150, but there's some of the lesser known, lesser desirable characters that are down to like $20. So it really depends on the figure, and it partly depends on whether it's punched or unpunched, and condition is a big factor that plays a role in addition to the character. So that's that one. Let's move on to the next one here. This is the lot of 50 Mad magazines. I have shown this numerous times, but if you are brand new, not only am I going to show you this one here, that this one I believe is number 8, that sold for $170. And I'm just going to zoom in right here. I've talked about my strategy before. I try to use the most iconic characters to feature those in that front row, so it really draws people in. Indiana Jones, Yoda, Superman, the Star Wars characters, and Jaws. So not only that, in the next one you're going to see, it's another Mad magazine lot. So this one sold for $170, and this one just sold the other day for $180. What you could do with these, and you could see here, there's some overlap. There's the Star Wars one again, but there's E.T., Hulk Hogan, Garbage Pail Kids, and Eddie Murphy. I decided to put Eddie Murphy on there because he just kind of had a little bit of resurgence, and he just came back on Saturday Night Live right around the time that I was posting this. So I figured that was a good thing to put up there. But basically what I do is I find these big lots, and you remember I was sourcing a lot of these over the course of the year, finding them in flea markets, estate sales, those sorts of things. Try to get them for a buck or less, and when I buy them in bulk, I'm usually getting them for 25 cents or less, 15 cents, sometimes even 10 cents, just depends. And what I suggest is you look for the ones that are primarily from the 80s or earlier. So 80s, 70s, 60s. Mad started off in the 1950s. And just put them up in lots of 50. Started at $199.99. So $200 basically. And then sometimes they'll sell for $200. I've had that happen. And then basically after a week goes by, what I do is I just lower it by $5. And then basically what happens is that the number of watchers keeps increasing. And eventually I just continue to increase the anxiety of the people who are watching it by just leaving it up there for another week. And eventually someone just gets nervous and pulls the trigger on it. And the longest it usually will go out is somewhere to around this $170 range. So it might take a few weeks, might take a month to sell them. But then again, you put them up for $200. Sometimes they'll sell for that range. So I sold one on January 2nd. For $170, and then I put another lot up, and it sold within a few weeks. This one sold on January 26th for $180. So Mad Magazine's even more desirable now because they recently stopped making them. You could sell the ones from the 1990s and ones from 2000s, but they're not going to get you that same price tag as I have here, so you're gonna have to lower it accordingly. But if your books are mostly 80s or mostly 70s, you could sell them for $200. If you got the ones from the 60s and the 50s, you'll want to increase the price on those because those are going to be worth more money. And that brings me to the last item, I believe, the one I was telling you sold for $500 that I sourced for free. And this goes back to an item I talked about earlier, which was this box of cameras. Well, there was something else in that box of cameras. It wasn't just worthless cameras, and it wasn't just an instant Minolta camera, but there was actually an old Rolleiflex camera in there. and I sold this one for $500. It says $600 on there, but I took a best offer of $500. And I'm telling you, if you ever get a Rolleiflex camera, and by the way, this sold for parts. I don't even know if this thing works, and I don't think it does, but you know, I didn't really have a way of testing it. But if this thing works, if you could verify that it works, and to do that, you're really going to have to, from what I read, you're going to have to develop the film and check the film afterwards, and you're going to have like a film setup. I don't have any of that stuff. I wish I did know more about film development, because you know, you could potentially make a lot more out of this. If this works, these things easily will sell for thousands of dollars. Easily. Now, it's Rolleiflex that you want to look for. There's other kind of Rolly related ones, but it's the Rolleiflex that really sells for the most. This is a great one. The Plantar cameras. You could find out how to identify it best by going right here, right above the lens. You'll see some identifying information on there that you could type in, the planar 1:35. Those are the types of things that you want to type in. Make sure you get all different angles and views. This is a perfect type of item for a white background. Really helps it display professionally. Just get all the different types of items in there. So this camera is well known for just being, you know, superior quality. It's nice and compact. It's not heavy. It was worn at the waist. It was used for you know, for filming, and just people just love it, and they absolutely love it. They love trying to get them, even if they're broken, they will take them, and real collectors, you know, people who are handy will try to restore these and get them back to working, just because of the superior quality involved in it. So Rolleiflex, that's the big name that comes out of this video to make sure you look for, because if you find it, you are definitely going to score. So thanks to Mama Primetime for bringing that over. I didn't really have to do anything to source that except voicing to people that I was looking for stuff. And I remember that conversation. I remember going over to that table at a dinner and telling them all about eBay, and if you have anything, let me know. And you never know. And now it took about a year for that to materialize, by the way, into something, but it was worth dropping that information. So that's basically everything, folks. It's probably a longer one compared to my average top 10 video, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. I hope it was worth the wait if you sat through all of that. And now I mentioned my Facebook group a few times. Make sure that you come over to the Facebook group. It's the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. I put lots of different be on the lookout items there. Not only there, but also I'm putting a lot more this year. I'm really focusing on the Instagram account. My Instagram account just went to 5,000 followers yesterday. So come on over, follow. If you send me a message on there, just send me a message that says YouTube, or you could say RRC for the Reselling Resource Center. Just send me a direct message and I will follow you back. So just let me know that. I look forward to seeing you over there. All the links are down below. Make sure that you like the video if you enjoyed it, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel as well. I hope to see you all back at the next video, everyone. Take care.